Resident Evil Requiem is finally out and there has been a lot of theories. Fanbase is fighting, is this guy really Hunk?
Leon Sexy Kennedy. We finally meet.
Who is Leon married to? Why this guy looks like Wesker?
So tell me, Grace, do I look like Wesker?
I don't know.
Of course you do.
Damn it, where's Jill?
Jill? Maybe I'll tell you. Maybe I won't.
Well, after getting the Platinum Trophy, taking my time to record as much of the Easter eggs as possible and all the insane details this game has, there is a lot to talk about, some of it founded by myself, by the community and by the hard work we all put into loving this franchise. Get ready to face the past in a journey through the darkness, because this is 100 insane details of Resident Evil Requiem. Starting the game in the intro where we see Grace preparing a file regarding one of the victims of Raccoon City Syndrome, we notice that she stops to read about the Raccoon City lockdown, which is extended to 2040. We can also see that her work is not organized, and that the reason she hasn't delivered her report is because she suddenly stops often to investigate more about Raccoon City.
If this is about the report you asked for yesterday, it'll be ready in 2 days top.
Starting the game, we see a man similarly dressed as Mr. X. It has a similar coat and hat. People thought that it was probably an Easter egg for our favorite chaser, but after walking a little bit around, everyone is taller than Grace, and also the Mr. X clothes is recycled among pretty much every male civilian walking around. Even in this couple, that they're having an argument about going after dinner together, and this is an Easter egg of how lonely we are and how we'll never have a girlfriend. But we can also see the Grill 14 restaurant. This is a reference to the previous seen Grill 13 restaurant in Raccoon City, back in Resident Evil 3. And as Grace makes her way down the street towards the hotel, you pass several shops. The first one on the left is a barbecue restaurant advertising Dolby beer, and you can see a crocodile icon in it. If this is not obvious enough, it's a clear reference to the location where the events of Resident Evil 7 take place, Dolby, Louisiana. We can see also a couple of workers removing the painting from the wall regarding the Renroots Hotel, the hotel where our story began. The name Renroot comes from the family of birds called wrens, which are small type of brown birds, which are also the logo of the hotel later on that you can see in the note announcing the closure of the building. Now that we're talking a lot about Raccoon City, early in the game, in Grace's investigation report, you get a list of 4 people who succumbed to the Raccoon City Syndrome. 3 of the names are new to the series, but the 4th, M. Warren, might sound familiar to you. Michael Warren was actually the mayor of Raccoon City at the time of its destruction back in 1998. Apparently, he made it out of the city, but unfortunately, his daughter Catherine didn't. Let's remember that Catherine was murdered by Brian Irons, the chief of the police officers in Resident Evil 2. That was 28 years ago, because the game is set on October 2026. 28 years after the events of Raccoon City, and 8 years after a Renroots Hotel incident. We can even find posters around early in the game indicating that bands might play on that same month. Then our daddy Leon Kennedy will be 49 years old by the events of the game, Chris will be 53, Claire Redfield would be 47, and Sherry Birkin will be 40 years old. And that G-Virus might be working really well because she looks like she's on her 20s. But how old is Grace? Well, actually, Grace Ashcroft should be 22 years old. Although nothing is confirmed, she will be almost the same age as Leon when, as a rookie police officer, he ventured into Raccoon City the first time. Grace was a baby during Alisa's interview with Spencer, which, according to the Grace report at the end of the game, happened after he lost everything in the Raccoon City trials. This will place this event or interview after March 2004. The crows at the beginning of the game are common to the franchise. They appear at the beginning of Resident Evil 2, at the beginning of RE4, RE7, and here they show again. Crows are a symbol of evil, a demon, or a journey through the darkness. They also serve as a bridge between the living and the dead. In the Nordic myths, they also are related to memory and hidden knowledge, which is what Grace is forced to face during her visit to the Renroot Hotel. When going upstairs in the hotel, we can see a window on our right hand in this new floor. When coming back, when the police officer Norman Cole has entered the building, we see he broke through the window and can find shards of glass next to it. And it is thanks to this police officer that Leon Kennedy arrives at the crime scene. It's his disappearance what triggers Leon going to the Renroot Hotel, where he finally tracks Gideon and can help Grace Ashcroft. So thank you, Norman Cole, for dying or whatever.
Was a hero. I just couldn't see it.
Grace is beaten at the beginning of the game. Why she was not infected? Well, the way this new T-virus works is not spread through bites, as we can see on the street where people is getting bitten and not turning into zombies. It says also that around 10% of the population is resistant to the T-virus, like Hunk, Leon, Chris Redfield, and that is why Umbrella created the Hunters, the Tyrants, and other weapons to use against survivors being resistant. It is stated that even if you were bitten, the virus will stay incubated in your body for decades, until the Raccoon City Syndrome showed the first symptoms in your body. Grace's verbal hesitations when she speaks are actually tied to the trauma she's experienced as a teenager. She witnessed her mother die during the hotel incident, an event that left her with lasting psychological scars. That trauma still affects her years later, which is why she sometimes stumbles over her words and hesitates when talking, because of the anxiety she feels.
You okay?
Yeah. Thanks. I'm Grace. Ashcroft. FBI.
It's also one of the reasons she eventually joined the FBI. She wants to uncover the truth behind her mother's death, and the game slightly hints this motivation at the opening scene where Grace is already investigating the events surrounding Raccoon City incident. Another subtle character details appears when Grace is under pressure. In stressful situations when she's feeling this anxiety, she often avoids making eye contact. We can see this with Leon Kennedy, we can see this with the police officer Norman Cole, we can even see this with her FBI boss. You can also notice that when things come overwhelming and she tries to take control of her breathing using a calming technique her mother taught her, slowly inhaling and exhaling to steady herself. It's a quiet detail, but it reinforces how deeply her mother's influence is, and her loss still shapes the way Grace copes with fear and stress. And talking about our beloved protagonist, Leon's Kennedy vehicle in this game is a Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT. It's a high-performance SUV known for being one of the fastest SUVs in the world, combining luxury with extreme power. In real life, the Cayenne Turbo GT usually costs between $200,000 and $230,000, which makes it pretty fitting for someone like Leon after years of working in high-level government operations and rescue the president's daughter.
How about we do some overtime?
Sorry.
He also wears a Hamilton khaki-filled auto-chrono watch in the game. This watch features an all-black design with rushed, almost ballistic style details. In real life, it's valued a little bit over $1,800. One subtle detail is the wing engraving on the watch, which closely resembles the wings engraved on Leon's Kennedy customized Magnum, the Requiem. Interestingly, similar wings motifs also appears in the jacket worn by Chris Redfield and Claire Redfield throughout the series. Because of Leon's long story and friendship with both characters, some fans speculate that the watch could be a personal gift from one of them, symbolizing the decades of shared battles and trust between them. Grace, on the other hand, wears a Hamilton American Classic Pan Europe, a watch with a completely different style compared to Leon. While Leon's watch has a rushed tactical aesthetic, Grace Pan Europe has a cleaner, more classical design, reflecting her more analytical and investigative role. In real life, this watch is valued around $1,500. So the FBI must be paying really well. We can also see that when Leon aims, much like in Resident Evil 4, when a target is nearby, he uses the center axis relock technique, or CAR for short. This close quarter shooting method, widely popularized in films like John Wick, keeps the weapon closer to the center line of the body. The advantage is that it expands the shooter field of vision while engaging targets at short range, allowing for faster reactions and more controlled center-aligned shots. And as an additional bonus detail, Leon weapons are still customized by Joe Kendo. And if you don't know who that is, he's Robert Kendo's brother, the famous gunsmith in Raccoon City, and that has years working with Leon and creating most of his handguns, such as the silver ghost he's using with the signature of Kendo's family on it in Resident Evil 4. And now that we talk about weapons, we can't forget about the Matilda, a recurring pistol in games where Leon appears, which is a clear reference to Matilda from the movie Leon the Professional, where Leon, the main character portrayed by Gian Reno, adopts this little girl portrayed by Natalie Portman and trains her to become a hitman. When killing a zombie, he will leave a stain of blood on the ground that spreads around the body, indicating that they are dead, like the classic Resident Evil games when you kill a zombie at the beginning and you weren't sure if they were dead or not. Grace and Leon will retain the magazine if there are still rounds left in it, performing what is known as a tactical reload. However, if the magazine is completely empty, Leon will discard it and perform a much faster reload instead. This small detail reflects real-world firearm handling, where operators present partially used magazines will prioritize speed when the weapons runs dry. Just like in Resident Evil 4, if you reload without firing any shots, The game keeps a plus icon indicator at the corner of the ammo counter. This represents a round already in the chamber, meaning that the weapon holds one extra bullet beyond the magazine capacity. A small but realistic detail that mirrors how firearms actually function. Yep, the infamous bolt cutter returns. In Resident Evil Requiem, you only get them once right at the start of Grace's run throughout the creepy abandoned Grenroot Hotel. It has been a tradition in the latest game of the series, found in RE7, RE2, RE3, and RE Village. And now you can find it as a wire cutter in Requiem. And talking about villains, the main villain of the game, Victor Gideon, is clearly inspired by Buffalo Bill from The Silence of the Lambs, the 1991 movie, starred by Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins. The character in the film, played by Ted Levine, has a look that it's impossible not to notice in Gideon, without even mentioning that they both love kidnapping people. We need to talk as well about his clothes, and you'll notice a snake motif on his ring. In fact, Gideon has several snake references. Multiple jewelry resembling a snake, a ring with a snake-shaped eye on it, which is also a reference to the Resident Evil 2 main title screen, from his camouflage patterns on his robes resembling a snake skin, and his forked tongue is likely seen when he captured Daddy Leon Kennedy. Let's remember that also the snake is the universal symbol of treason and temptation, a subtle foreshadowing of what Gideon will become later in the game. But the real villain is Nathan Dempsey, for sending an individual intelligence analyst on a field mission without any backup or support. I mean, what the hell? But if we take a good look at his 3D model, we can see that his blazer has some hair on it, indicating that he might have a pet at home. But I still don't trust him. I mean, he's bald. When you're playing as Leon, no matter how fast you are in Resident Evil Requiem, there's a guy who gets attacked by a zombie, and you just can't save him. He'll hit the ground and that's it, the game over for him. I don't know, I find it quite interesting, the detail that you cannot save anyone. It's like bro was programmed to die. Or he might be in shock because he's seeing Daddy Leon Kennedy in action. I discovered that there is actually a way to save him. All you have to do is to shoot him really far, and that won't trigger the animation when he suddenly dies. So if you're replaying Requiem, don't forget to save this guy. The physics in these games are crazy. When Grace is hanging around capture, it's not only her shirt that reacts realistically to the belt, but her face actually shows redness too, as blood rushes to her brain. We can also notice how smart Grace is, using her surroundings even while upside down and disoriented. She's always finding a way to escape quickly. That is exactly why she works as an FBI intelligence analyst. And we can see that her bite on her arm has been carefully treated by Victor Gideon. Throughout the game, you can spot several pieces of lorem ipsum text. In case that you're wondering, lorem ipsum is just a placeholder text, basically gibberish used in design and publishing to fill space before the real text is added. I don't know, it was pretty curious to me. I found it really lazy, and it even looks like AI generated text. And if you want to talk about AI, we can talk about the monster girl that chases you throughout the game. Her aggression is triggered by light. Even though she looks like she has cataracts and seems blind, she can actually detect light and knows where you are if your flashlight or lighter is on. And if you get too close to a door, she'll try to grab you and plant a little kiss on your face.
Come over here and kiss me on my hot mouth. I'm feeling romantical.
And if you try to lure her into a lit room to hurt her a second time, she will be like, I'm not falling for that one again, baby. She will climb inside the ceiling and turn off the lights herself. What a bitch! And talking about enemies, some infected hesitate before attacking, showing partial neutral control. Some guard specific areas like they own them, and each has unique facial features and lesions. A few even track you with their eyes and head before fully turning hostile. And if you play as Grace in third person, she will run faster than in the first person mode, but to compensate this, she will stumble when running from enemies. And if Grace takes a hit to her head, you'll notice that her aim gets wobbly from the dizziness caused by the impact. This really surprised me on my first run, it was quite funny to see. And guess what? The jiggle physics are back, but not as good as you remember them from Resident Evil 4 Remake. You can see them on our chunky boy here. And you can notice that Grace's figure is noticeable when she's wearing Lady Dimitrescu's outfit.
I knew you'd be fine if you landed on your butt.
And now that we're exploring outfits, the Apocalypse outfit is a nod to Resident Evil Extinction movie where Alice and Claire Redfield wears a similar look. And it's not the first time the series drops a reference to the movies, as we're going to see later in this video. Let's remember that Grace is also a rookie, and she will show a lot of character growth as the game progresses. Her posture goes from a defensive and hunched to upright and tactical. Her aim shakes the most during early encounters, but later on, it steadies and she becomes braver and more confident with the time. Also with her sprint, at first looks panicked, but later it becomes more control. Her reload timing subtly improves after a few encounters, and the tiny fear expressions on her face fade as she grows more and more confident. Another gruesome detail that you might have noticed is that the zombie damage reaction changes depending on visible lesions impact. If you shoot him in a specific part of the face like the eye, it will put out like a freaking spaghetti. Or it can slowly break parts of their faces, like here when I roundhouse kick this zombie in the head with Leon and you see that her freaking jaw breaks. There is a roulette table in the parlor area of Rose Hills. Spinning the roulette will always make the ball land in 3 numbers, 7, 15, and 29. You can shoot any of those 3 numbers on the table and then spin the roulette to win a prize. And the prize you win is an antique coin, which can be used to get permanent upgrades for Grace. Now, Grace's lockpicking skills are a clear nod to her mother's special tool from Resident Evil Outbreak. This is going to unlock the trophy like mother, like daughter, as a reference to Alicia's Ashcroft skills in Resident Evil Upgrade where she had unlimited lockpicks. Thank God they didn't go for the Master of Unlocking joke again.
Jill, here's a lockpick. It might be handy if you, the Master of Unlocking, take it with you.
And talking about skills, Leon is a master with his whole equipment. When he uses a flashlight, for example, with his handgun, reloading is smooth. He tucks the flashlight onto his shoulder in a sleek detail animation. And if he's using a two-handed weapons like a shotgun or an assault rifle, he will use the flashlight in the belt instead. And if I try to list every returning enemy, sound, or location from Resident Evil 2 Remake in Requiem, this will take forever. But here are some of the standout returning monsters. Longtime fan can spot them instantly. The Plant 42 is now called Plant 43 and makes this whole terrifying comeback. The Lickers are back in all their blind, creepy glory. A huge, nasty spider shows up, similar to the Black Tiger spider from Resident Evil 1. There are chainsaw zombies coming back from RE4 Remake, and the Crimson Heads come back as a much different enemy called the Blister Heads. And few doors are as iconic as the original loading screen door from Resident Evil 1, the first entrance to the Spencer Mansion. Requiem pays tribute to this early on, slowly zooming in a door right before the chainsaw-wielding doctor attacks. Who are the singing zombies we find in the game? The first one is Selena Corey, filling the place with her haunting singing. She was originally a professional singer, really beautiful, until she got infected in the outbreak, and that's why we can't find her in the West Wing bar and lounge, as if she's competing with her rival. And there is also Aileen Zimmerson, the other singer. After the Rose Hill incident, Aileen was infected along with several patients and staff members inside the conference room. The infection triggered an unusual mutation, turning her into a zombie capable of producing and piercing sonic screams. Now she wanders the facility singing and screaming, resembling a little bit to Selena Corey. Before the outbreak, Aileen had undergone surgery in which several cranial nerves were removed. The procedure left her with a severe histrionic personality disorder, something that could best be described as a kind of a main character syndrome. This also explains some of the difference between her and Selena. And talking about another enemy, the huge hulking enemy we know as Shunk is actually Thomas K. Jackson, and the one that Leon faces is his brother in the attic, Timothy B. Jackson. Both have seriously irregular eating habits, and it shows in their mutation. Another zombie we need to talk about is the one that complains about the noises. This one is Martin L. Case. After being treated to an overdose of Ciprobol, an antipsychotic medication that can treat several mental health conditions like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, he began experiencing auditory hallucinations and quickly became aggressive and difficult to control. He also showed unstable behavior whenever exposed to loud noises. He feels very familiar to one of the patients in Bloodborne DLC, who also attacks using an IV stand, and you can actually lure him to fight our Shunky Boy or kill other zombies. It's actually quite useful, and there are way more zombies that still show traces of their old habits from when they were alive. One example is the cleaning zombie who obsessively tries to wipe blood off a mirror. She'll even move around the facility to clean up the blood spills you leave behind after killing other zombies. It's unusual to see zombies behaving like this, and it's hard not to think of the zombies from Dawn of the Dead, the George A. Romero film. In this movie, the zombies headed to the mall simply because that's what they did in life. At the time, it was a metaphor for consumerism, and intentional or not, it's difficult not to make the same connection when watching the zombies in Requiem. On Insanity difficulty, there are a lot of gameplay changes that I don't want to spoil to you because this is something that you have to experience yourselves, but Let's talk about a few of them. The coins are now carried by zombies, item placements are different, and the handgun is no longer found in the dining room. Enemy positions also changed and new enemies are added throughout the game. Capcom also made that the monster girl Mary is immune to the Requiem's bullet in most areas. And talking about Mary, we can find her cell next to Emily's, and we can see where she escaped before mutating, making her way across the facility rooftops to hide from the light. Mary was injected with infected mixed blood. The experiments gave her the enhanced physical strength, but the real goal was memory inheritance. But it never worked. Instead, Mary became unstable and escaped her cell by digging straight through the concrete wall into the basement. The order was to kill her on sight, but as her mutation progressed, it was discovered that she had developed an extreme sensitivity to light, and the plan was to trap her in the basement using high-intensity UV lights. Unfortunately, the staff never finished the setup. Mary hunted all of them down and ate them one by one. We can even find their bodies being headless all across the basement facility. In the basement area, Grace sliding into a bath of blood mirrors the Evils Within famous scene, where Sebastian falls into a trap at the start of the game. And you can even see her hair covered in blood.
Oh, I got in my mouth.
That's what she said.
And if we try shooting the helicopter once Harry and Emily are inside, we're gonna get these funny voice lines coming from Harry.
You lost your mind!
In Gideon's office, you can spot all sorts of objects. His lab coat, various saws, and a huge amount of books covering everything from anatomy and mental disorders. So you can tell that Gideon was also a scholar. And while searching this same office, we can check out a bottle of wine with a familiar label on it, Sanguis Virginis. This is the Latin for blood of the maiden. This is the wine craft by Alcina Dimitrescu, appearing in a few puzzles of Resident Evil Village. And yes, you can probably guess what her secret ingredient was.
What is it?
Blood.
The moment where you have to open the hatches to expose Mary to the sunlight is actually a direct reference to Resident Evil 0. In that game's final battle inside the water treatment plant, Rebecca Chambers defeats the Lich Queen in a very similar way, by opening the facility hatches and letting the sunlight pour into the room. The intense light weakens the creature and ultimately destroys it. Also, both areas are water treatment plants. And when Emily transforms, if we decide not to shoot with Leon, he will automatically do it anyways. She will apparently die. Grace completely loses hope, just like with her mother, because she couldn't save her. And that guilt weighs heavily on her. Leon understands that feelings too well. Back in Raccoon City when he was around Grace's age, there were many people he couldn't save either.
This is all my fault! Again!
Look, I get it. Trust me, I get it. But we're still alive. We have to keep going.
Now this is the place where most of the Easter eggs shows up, Raccoon City. First of all, when first going to Raccoon City, we can see Leon's Jeep is still at the RE2 remake gas station after 30 years. There is also crows in the way, as in the beginning of the game from Resident Evil 2. You can find all kinds of small details around Raccoon City, including missing person posters and evacuation notices dated from September the 30th, just one day before the missile strikes. And when watching the BCAA footage of the soldiers that are killed by Zeno, we see that the cameraman loses an arm and Zeno finishes him with a magnum shot to the face. But once the video ends, there's a strange inconsistency. The same soldier helmet shows no damage at all, like the crystal is slightly broken, but the mask is not showing any sign of magnum shots, not even the helmet. Which if we're talking about a magnum shot, it should have torn the whole head apart. And we can also see the Applegate Hotel, a nod to the Apple Inn Hotel from Resident Evil Outbreak. It's explorable once again. This hotel in the final month of operation hosted a number of guests, including the novelist Dario Rosso, which you pretty much know from Resident Evil 3, who would die with his family after being stranded in the outbreak. Another reference from Resident Evil 3, when you explore the subway platforms, you can spot several posters for fictional movies. One of them is Wolf of the Battlefield, which is actually a nod to Commando from 1984, a Capcom game that was released under this fictional movie title in Japan. When Leon passes through the ruins of the subway shortly after arriving in Raccoon City, you can spot the same poster on the platform, worn and damaged by time. A few other posters are still somewhat recognizable, but most are heavily deteriorated. And when Leon first takes the motorcycle in Raccoon City, Capcom has layered subtle instructions into the environment, with a billboard appearing very early on that says, "Learn to steer," just after the player takes control. And the motorcycle gameplay sequence mirrors Leon's highway fight in Resident Evil Vendetta, the animated film where Leon escapes from Cerberus bioweapons in a motorcycle and ends up killing a bunch of poor dudes just trying to get to work. By the way, I forgot to add this one, but the license plate on Leon's car displays the numbers 9642, which are actually the games where Leon appears as the main character. Sooner than later, you will arrive at Raccoon City Police Department. You'll notice the streets around you feel very familiar. You can look behind and you'll see the tanker that separated Leon and Claire and that subsequently exploded. Still in the exact same position it was 28 years ago. And right next to the tanker is a building with Arucas written on it, which is a reference back to the original 1998 game, where we could see this same building at the start of the game. And also turns out to be a reference to Street Fighter's Alpha 2 Sakura. Arucas is Sakura spelled backwards. Surprisingly, that is not the only Street Fighter reference you can find, but there are a couple steps before we get there. Part of the Jill's Valentine's uniform can be found in the STAR's office inside the Raccoon City Police Department, her iconic cap. It's now covered in dust after the Raccoon City destruction, but the familiar STAR's logo is instantly recognizable. The Leon First Scenario statue puzzle solution appears carved into the ruins of the statue. There has always been this famous discussion about Leon A being canon or Claire A being canon. Well, the game finally confirms that the canon scenario is Leon A and then Claire B. He has flashbacks from Leon A scenario remembering Marvin and how he helped him to get through the RPD as his first day as a cop. And this is also a flashback visible in RE4 Remake. So yep, the correct way to play is Leon A and then Claire B. Marvin Branagh and the rest of the RPD officers that were going to work with Leon were preparing a secret surprise party to welcome the rookie into the unit. We can read this as soon as we enter the West office, and Leon will say the following line. And you can find a note talking about Wesker borrowing medicinal herb books and return it just 2 days later. Kashima, an Asian guy on the other hand, needed 6 days to finish it, so basically Capcom is saying that only Wesker is above Asian people. Nah, just joking. But if you find the book, you can also spot a famous photo Wesker kept on his desk, showing Rebecca Chambers, labeled Rising Rookie Rebecca, or RRR. Longtime Resident Evil fans will recognize Rebecca Chambers as one of the franchise's original protagonists, who first appeared on the very first Resident Evil game and has shown up on several spin-offs since then. And in that same office, there's a locked briefcase. If you use the password that you found on the picture, RRR, it unlocks the briefcase and gives you Wesker's sunglasses charm, which grants you infinite bullet penetration. You can also do a scavenger hunt made by Barry Burton, the lovely main character from Resident Evil 1 and Revelations 2.
Oh my god.
This will lead you to a key for a locker with the name JoJo on it, which of course is a JoJo Bizarre Adventure reference. And when opening this locker, you will not only get tickets to the Raccoon City Zoo, a location explored in Resident Evil Outbreak 2, but we can see multiple game cases from Street Fighter to Mega Man and the original Resident Evil case. In the STAR's office, you can also find Chris Redfield's Made in Heaven jacket, one of his unlockable costumes from the original games, and it sits there in the corner covered in dust. While you can't actually equip it, it's a nice little detail from the longtime fans. In the hallway that you originally encountered the Licker in Resident Evil 2, you can come across a dead police officer with his jaw completely removed. 28 years later, his skeleton is still there in the exact same position, still missing the jaw. And guess what? The vending machine zombie is back, and it looks like he lost some weight after nearly 3 decades without having a Pepsi. You see guys, this is what not drinking Pepsi does to your body. And walking through this hallway, you can also find Tofu. For those who can't remember, Tofu was a playable character in the mini-game Tofu Survivor in the original Resident Evil 2 and also in the remake, where you played as this Tofu chunk and had to escape Raccoon City. This tyrant isn't the same massive brute as before. He belongs to the same line of creatures created by Umbrella, of course, but almost like a fast fashion brand of monsters, If you check one of our computer screens, you'll see that the Tyrants are said to come with the same coat and standard effective human disguise. I find it really funny that they are costume makers working for Umbrella or the Connections, creating coats and clothes for these monsters. And an interesting detail about this new Mr. X version is that it proves that the Tyrant program is very much active. We have seen Mr. X in other games, of course, but this one is the 2501 series, or 501, a new iteration, mass-produced by the Connection and sold for $120 million each, according to a later document. So if you're planning to buy your own Tyrant, well, you better grab some cash, bro. And when you escape from him, it seems like he's attacking you with a steel bar, but if you look closely, it's actually the tail of the helicopter that crashed into the RPD 28 years ago. It's crazy. In the orphanage flashback, you can see the mannequins with lines drawn on their heads, showing the surgical procedures performed on the girls. These, of course, were meant to attempt the memory transfer and mind control experiments that Spencer states in most of his documents. Which is also a reference to Resident Evil Revelations 2, where Alex Wesker tried to transfer her memories and mind to Natalia. When we're going to continue that storyline, well, I don't know, ask Capcom.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Once you have left the RPD, make sure to head left and you'll be able to revisit the parking garage. This is the location where Leon first met his love interest, Ada Wong. In here, you can find a cute bear charm, the same one seen on the keys that Ada hands to Leon in Resident Evil 4.
Very cute.
After taking out the Tyrant, the toy uncle head you find in the backyard is the same head that Nemesis shoots in RE3 Remake, sliding down the streets trying to make a Jill sandwich. If you kick that same head along until it goes through the hoop, you'll get a new action prompt that tells you there's no time for playing around. Instead of pushing forward to the orphanage, head back to Kendo's gun shop and you'll find a prompt on a headless toy uncle bobblehead that reads, "Just ignore A." The first theory was that this was a reference to the ending choice, since the first option or A ending is like the bad ending, but it's actually a clue to the final puzzle of the game, which I'm not going to explain here because it would take me like 10 minutes. I respect your time, guys, so let's move to the next one, which is the Trisol branding appearing in our corporate materials. And as we know, Trisol was a multi-industry conglomerate and a major member of federations of pharmaceutical companies. The name came from Travis Training Enterprise and the three cells that formed the company. The first cell being pharmaceutical, the second shipping, and the third natural resources. And as you know, is the antagonist of Resident Evil 5 along with Wesker and Excella. The location of Elpis in Ark is called Pandora. In the common version of the myths, Pandora opened the box given to her by the gods. Inside of that box were all the evils in the world, which she released, bringing suffering to humanity. This actually resembles to Spencer releasing the viruses across the world and starting the bioweapons research that caused so many tragedies across all the Resident Evil series.
My research opened Pandora's box, unleashing disaster upon the world.
During the section where the Connection Secret Service attacks, you can unleash leakers to target the soldiers, giving yourself a small edge in combat. It's kinda cool. Honk, there's a sexy guy in the hallway, be careful.
He's really beautiful, I'll take care of him. Leon Sexy Kennedy. We finally meet.
Alright, let's see the evidence and let's compare if these guys hunk. First of all, it is voiced by the same longtime franchise actor Keith Silverstein that voiced Hunk in all the previous entries. If he tries to kill you, he's going to attempt the same signature neck break execution move that Hunk does as well. The gas mask he's using is also the classic Hunk filter. We can put a helmet on him and will look the same as Hunk. When we finally defeat him, his gloves come off and we can show visible Raccoon City Syndrome infection in his hand, indicating that he was indeed in the Raccoon City incident. The hatchet he wields, known as the Mortal Edge, in its description it says that it have a long and bloody history described as a formidable instrument of death. This of course ties into the recurring theme surrounding Hunk's many ominous titles, Mr. Death. And for those crying that Hunk cannot be killed by Leon, after defeat his body disappears instead of remaining in the arena. Something that doesn't happen with the Titan Spider that always remains in the subway after killing it. And if he kills you, not only he does his famous signature move after breaking your neck, but he can also say the same words he said after escaping Raccoon City.
Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. The survival, the death cannot die.
Later in the game, on Spencer's study, you can see a picture of a lone woman with a baby and the letter M on it. This is a reference to Mother Miranda, the big bad of Resident Evil Village and Spencer's inspiration. Let's remember that Spencer became fascinated by Miranda's research on infecting living organisms. During one of his expeditions to Africa, Spencer discovered a virus he named the progenitor virus, coming from a flower. This discovery would later become the foundation for all other viruses responsible for the tragedies that followed, ultimately pushing him to establish the Umbrella Corporation. And as soon as you see Zeno, you'll probably point at the screen and say, "Hey, Wesker's back!" Then you will remember that Wesker died in Resident Evil 5, so... The curious thing is that he seems to have the same face model and voice actor, hinting that the connections might be creating one of many Wesker's clones. We know that cloning is part of the franchise. In RE6 we can see it, in the movies thanks to Paul W.S. Anderson. Zeno even quotes Wesker with the time quote.
"Sorry, but I don't have time to spare."
During the end, before Gideon kills Zeno, calls him an imitation, and that hints that he might be Wesker's clones indeed, developed by the connections.
You are nothing but an imitation.
Emotional damage! You want some therapy?
At the very end, we see soldiers from the connections retrieving someone's remains. It might be Zeno's remains for cloning, so it's likely that we see more of him in the future. It sounds like a way of Capcom hinting if we want Wesker back in the series. President Adam Benford is also referenced by Zeno, as he was assassinated by the family. And if you don't know, the family is one of the main antagonists in Resident Evil that is still hidden, such as the connections. The family is a powerful organization with a global network of large and immense financial influence. Its goal is to maintain global stability, though in reality that often means shaping the world in a way that best serves the organization's own interests. So they're pretty much like the Illuminati or the Patriots in Metal Gear Solid. When President Benford started considering revealing the truth about the Raccoon City incident, which involves the search of Elpis and the Ark for the family, this was unacceptable, as they wanted to control Elpis before anyone else's does.
Is it? When the president tried to investigate, they had him assassinated.
Had he disclosed the truth behind Raccoon City, the U.S. would have lost all its authority, and the global political order would have collapsed.
So to avoid one possible disaster, you create another, no matter how many people die?
He had to be stopped! He was leading my country and this world into complete chaos.
Leon's trauma in Requiem references the opening tragedy in RE6, his inability to save anyone. This is echoed by Crosshair's line.
"You can't save her. You can't save anyone. Give it up, Krauser."
And it's the exact same phrase we see in the RPD note left by Zeno. It reflects Leon's ongoing pain over thinking he failed the people in Raccoon City, not only failing Marvin, Kendo, but also failing the President Benford. When Leon and Grace are at the trash disposal, Grace says to Leon the following line.
"I don't want any more regrets. Whatever it takes, count me in."
We may not make it out.
Whatever it takes to save this city. Count me in.
And the reason Leon stops is because that is the same line he once gave Ada when he was a rookie cop. At the very end, we know that Victor Gideon injected himself with a Nemesis-type parasite, and his final mutation deliberately mirrors RE3 Nemesis in the silhouette. We see his tentacle usage as an attack, same attack patterns when he becomes his final form. He even uses rocket launcher in his first form such as Nemesis, which Leon can actually parry. The way Leon finishes off Nemesis Gideon mirrors how Jill defeated Nemesis in the original Resident Evil 3, by delivering the final blow with a magnum. Now let's start asking some more questions. Who is Leon married to? There are a lot of hints around there. To be Claire Redfield, maybe because of his watch and magnum, having a similar pair of wings from the Redfield's jacket. I mean, he could also be married to Chris too, who knows? There's also a charm in the game with Claire's on it that is called Trusted Companion. But Ada also has its own charm, which is a cute bear. In Leon's artwork we can see the ring in his hand, and if you equip Leon's Noir outfit, which doesn't have gloves, Capcom added a special animation just for this costume. As you can see, Leon doesn't remove a glove because he doesn't have one, of course. In the artwork we can see that Sherry also has a ring on her pinky finger. Some say that because both characters have rings, they might be married, being Sherry around 41 years old and Leon almost 50, with 9 years difference gap in 2026. This could be completely normal, and the ring could also be a bond of father and daughter figure, rather than engagement or marriage. but we will have to wait for a confirmation or a DLC that let us know who's Leon married to. And Sherry and Leon are not the only characters that wear rings. We can see these in different characters and even zombie models, like Selena Carade, one of the zombie singers. Yes, she's taken, guys. It's fun how Resident Evil fandom have the most of the hear me out moments. This is a hidden detail, but I'm going to include it here as a bonus because I don't want this to be 101 insane details from the game. In the ending cutscene where Leon and Grace has been rescued by the BSAA agents, if you open the free camera and zoom out the face of one of the agents, you will see that they are bioweapons. This of course ties up to the storyline at the very end of Resident Evil Village, where Chris discovers that the BSAA is indeed using bioweapons as soldiers. During the credits you can spot the newspaper article written by Elisa Ashcroft from 1998 reporting from Raccoon City and calling for an immediate evacuation. By the end of the game, Grace is shown talking happily to Leon rather than just focusing on investigating about Raccoon City. She has become more efficient at her job and now keeps a photo of her family on her desk. Unlike at the beginning, she already has her report ready, prepared for her boss, with no more delays. She has become now a mother for Emily, which is alive and cured from her blindness. One last Resident Evil Requiem Easter egg connects both the beginning and the end of the campaign. Throughout the history, you repeatedly heard the mysterious word Elpis, which seems tied to Grace's origin. Elpis is actually the Greek word for hope.
Except Elpis, the goddess of hope? Or so the myth goes.
A blind hope.
What do you mean?
During the finale, Grace is forced to choose between two outcomes, hope or destruction. The meaning of the name becomes clear when she faces that decision. Grace is seen as a symbol of hope, not only for those around her, but also for Spencer.
I only hope it serves as a requiem for those who have passed.
Who believe he could redeem himself from his past sins. At the same time, it serves as one final twist in the story, allowing Spencer to trick and overcome the connections nearly 2 decades after his own death. And the last thing we're going to talk about is the song Through the Darkness. This song reflects the character's struggles against fear, survivor's guilt, and their search for truth and redemption. The lyrics focus on enduring pain, pushing forward, and refusing to be consumed by the darkness. The track works as a musical bridge for the story, especially for Leon's journey throughout the game, a personal struggle. The lyrics represent fighting through inner darkness, enduring suffering, and refusing to let it define who you are. This song mirrors an atmosphere of the story, reinforcing ideas of loss, survival, and confronting the past. As the title of the game suggests, the music acts as a farewell to the tragedies and memories that have shaped the characters. A requiem for the dead. Despite its somber tone, the song carries an underlying sense of hope, suggesting that even after everything, there is still a path forward. This is a story about guilt, survival, and the weight of the past. For Leon, it's another reminder of Raccoon City, of the people he couldn't save, but this time, instead of carrying that burden alone, he helped someone else move forward.
I couldn't make a difference, so I am here now.
Grace begins the game lost in the shadows of her past, but by the end, she finds something that many characters in this series spend their whole lives chasing: hope. Maybe that is why the word Elpis appears throughout the story. In Greek, it means hope, and in a world like Resident Evil, hope is something that is really hard to find. And as the song Through the Darkness reminds us, the fight isn't just against monsters, it's against the darkness inside us, against that guilt, against that fear, and the pain we carry with ourselves. But no matter how dark things get, we keep moving forward. Just like Leon did, just like Grace did, and maybe just like we all will. If you guys enjoyed all these Resident Evil Requiem details and want to see more content like this from other games, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps a lot and lets me know that you want to see more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.